All right, here we go, part two. We are going to be doing the shading today. So let's do this. Actually, before I do that, in the modeling tutorial last time, I completely forgot to model the liquid inside the bottle. So let's do that real quick. Let's select our glass here. Press Alt-H to unhide everything. And then select the interior vertices. Let's duplicate those and separate them by pressing P. Now select this new one and let's call it liquid. There we go. Now let's press / to solo it. And we just need to fill in this hole right here. Let's extrude this vertex and then merge here and make a face here. There we go. And I'm also going to unhide everything. Select the liquid, and in edit mode, make sure we have X-ray on. We want the liquid to actually intersect the glass a tiny bit. So let's do that. Oh, wrong way. There we go. Slight intersection. And you want this in 3D generally, so the liquid and glass have realistic interaction. All right, so let's move on. Actually, let me check my normals. Yeah, my liquid is the wrong way around. Let's fix that. There we go. So let's get started on the shading. So I'm going to start on the glass here. Let's give it a new material called glass and select a specular material. Where is it? Right here. Roughness to 0. For the liquid, I'm going to copy that and call it liquid. As for the cover, let's make it black, no roughness. Let's call it cover. And again, for the cap, copy the cover material, duplicate it, and call it cap. There we go. So now it should look, there we go, like this. All right, so let's start with the glass. So first thing I'm going to do is change the HDRI I'm using, because I don't really like this one. So let's see. Let's get a studio HDRI. Okay, I like this one, I think. I'm going to keep it for now. It's a little more dramatic, but it also allows us to see our model. Okay, so let's start this. So you can see we've got a gradient going from black to dark orange to kind of lighter orange. So I'm going to add in a gradient generator in Octane, and I'm going to preview it by doing Control-Shift right-click using Node Wrangler. So make sure you download the Node Wrangler add-on for Octane. You can find it online. And now I'm going to do Control-T, and again with the add-on, that's going to give me a mesh UV projection and transform value, which I need to plug in for some reason. So I'm going to start by scaling down this gradient here. There we go. So I want it to just line up. Well, actually, one thing we forgot to do is do the UVs real quick, because this mesh UV projection does use the UV, so we just need to go into edit mode, unwrap, and project from view. And now it should work. Let's see. Okay, not quite, because we have the mirror modifier enabled. So let's make a duplicate of this, move it to a collection called backup, so it's hidden, and then apply this mirror. All right, and do the same thing, project from view, there we go. Okay, so we need to rotate our gradient here. Let's go -90, I believe. There we go. Now we can move it around like so, make it a bit bigger, until it just lines up. There you go. That looks good. Let's solo it to make sure. Actually, we want it to go all the way probably. Let's move it back up, make it bigger. Tiny bit bigger. There we go. Nice. So we've got our gradient. Let's unsolo everything. There we go. Okay, so now this is going to go into transmission. And as you can see, it is very dark. Even though our gradient goes from like a gray to white, it's still very dark until the bottom here. So I'm going to take a color correction and bump up the brightness to maybe 4, something like that. Looks pretty good to me. And then let's add a gradient map. And here I can add a color to it, like so. All right, let's see how that looks. Now the line here between the dark and solid orange seems to be a little bit too sharp, right? We can see it right here. Let's see. Yeah, we can even see it in here. So I think the brightness is too far up, if that makes sense. We need it softer. So if I actually go back to maybe 2, or let's try 1 actually, and if I just move this, it also creates lines. Okay, so it seems like we can't really do anything about that. What if we play with the gamma, I wonder? Okay, that looks better. That looks better. Make it a tiny bit brighter. That looks pretty good to me. And then let's maybe move this in a little bit, make it more pronounced, and add another stop at the very end, which is a lot more of a pale yellow kind of thing, like so. That looks pretty good. Maybe a little bit more saturated, just a touch. Something like that. We can move this one up a little bit. And I think I want more yellow actually. Something like that. Alright, I'm pretty happy with that for now. We can always come back and tweak it later once we have our lighting setup a little bit more dialed in. So let's just make sure our liquid is intersecting. By the way, if I don't make it intersect, you can see what happens. It just doesn't look right. Right? So we want it to intersect a little bit. So yeah, actually I think it was pretty good where it was. All right, nice. And this still seems too yellow to me. There we go, that's nice. All right, I think we're doing pretty good on the gradient for now, right? So let's move on to the cap here. And by the way, if you want your glass to be more realistic, what you can do is add some surface imperfections to it, right? Like scratches or fingerprints, stuff like that. But in this case, since I'm making a product presentation kind of render, at least that's what I'm going to be using this model for a luxury brand, I want it to be as perfect as possible, right? So no imperfections. All right, now for the cap here, or the cover rather, it seems like all we've got in terms of textures is this little imprint here. So let's make it real quick. Now, if we look at it, it seems like we have got a line here, right? And then this isn't just a line, but it's actually embossed, right? So we're gonna need to make that. So I'm gonna start by finding this logo. Okay, here it is. 1024, that is good enough for us. Actually, let's see if I can find a bigger one. It never hurts to get very high resolution resources for stuff like this. 1024, this one's tiny. Oh, this one's huge. Okay, let's see what we need though. This and then the line, and it seems like if I look at my bottle in real life, the line is going to be around that one. So I think what we can do is wait, actually, can I find it in SVG? That would make my life a lot easier. Perfect. There we go. So SVG is scalable vector graphics, and you can open them with Illustrator, and it's a vector. So it's going to be actual shapes in Illustrator. All right, and as you can see, it's actual shapes, so I can move the points around. Perfect. we don't have to worry about resolution. So I'm just going to take this. This is going to be useful as well later for the logo here. Actually, is it even the same? Yeah, it seems like it is the same font. So let's copy this. Oops, copy it and open up Photoshop. And let's create a file that is, let's go 4K, because why not? We are not going to be having that many textures, so we can afford it. 8-bit, let's go 16. Now I'm going to copy as a smart object, scale it up. There we go, center it. Like so. Actually, you know what? I can make it as big as I want. And so now what we need to do is, first off, let's create a circle. Ellipse tool. Make sure it's a perfect circle. All right, no fill. Give it a stroke. Let's make it a color for now so we can see it better. There we go. Align it to the center and then scale it up. Just like so. And it seems like the logo, interestingly enough, isn't actually a perfect circle. Or I just messed up. No, it actually isn't. Okay, interesting. So let's make sure this line is aligned. Okay, it is. Okay, let's center it to the logo. And now what I want to do is convert it to a smart object. And let's go filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and let's give it, let's go with maybe 6 for now. We'll see how that looks. And we can always add some blur within Octane. And let's give it a, let's see, color overlay to make it black, just like that. All right, and now, so we've got our line. And now what we need is an imprint of the logo, which means we need the inverted logo, actually. So let's go back into Illustrator, let's copy it over. And I'm going to do Shift-M to get the shape builder. I can fill this in, delete this. There we go, that's what we need. Throw that back into Photoshop, let's scale it up until it fits. Let's center it first. Scale it up, and it should fit perfectly, more or less. Not quite. Okay. That's fine. It's very minute. Let's delete this. And then same thing here. Add some blur to it. Okay. So I'm going to keep it like this for now. Let's save this. And cool thing about Octane is that it can read PSDs. I say Octane, but it might be the case in Cycles as well. I'm not sure. Okay, so let's load in our logo bump right here and plug it into, let's do color first, or just preview it. Okay, and now we're going to need to do our UVs. So once again, we need to apply the mirror modifier. So I'm going to throw a copy of this into our reference. And now let's see. We're going to need these faces. And let's project from view. And then Control-I to select the rest and just unwrap. Doesn't really matter. Let's go to our UV editor. So let's select these and scale them way down because we don't need them. What we do need is these. Let's center them by typing in 0.5 for their coordinates, and then let's open our logo bump to see what we're doing. All right, and it's actually really big, but that's fine. Okay, let's go into a rendered view. Make sure it doesn't wrap around, but clamps the value, like so. Okay, seems like we've got some weird stuff going on here, which is due to the subdivision, right? So if I change it, you can see that affects this stuff. So I'm actually not sure if I can fix this. There we go, keep corners. Seems like that worked. Whereas it used to be all. Okay, seems like doesn't change much in terms of our model, but it fixes our shading issue, so perfect. And now let's just line up this logo. So let's open our image again. It was called front, and see how big it should be. All right, something like this looks pretty good to me. We can always adjust it later. And now I'm going to plug this into the bump. We're going to try bump. Actually, I'm going to do displacement right away, because if I want to do any close-ups, displacement is going to look better than bump. So texture displacement, plug that in. It's a 4K map. Okay, and I completely forgot that Octane is very annoying with its displacement. One limitation is that you cannot change these things. It's always going to use the wraparound setting. So what we need to do, and hopefully this doesn't mess it up too much, I'm just going to do a comparison here, is add in a baking texture. Plug that into texture. Resolution is 4096. Okay, seems like it's working. Seems like it's not working actually. Let's see if, nope. Okay, let me try to save and reload the file. Maybe it just needs to update. Okay, still doesn't work. So let's do something else. We're gonna need to apply the subdivision. Oops. Let's maybe do level 2. That should be fine. Let's just double check. So it comes out to right here. Nope, we need more. Level 3. Let's apply that and then throw one more at level 1 to get to level 4, which is where we were. And now what I can do is simply select the oh man, that's barely enough. Okay, let's make it a little bit bigger. And now I can select only the faces that are actually going to have the texture on them. Press Ctrl I, U, unwrap, and let's tuck these away in the corner. All right, and now it should work, hopefully. It's not working. I think it just needs to update. There we go, finally. All right. So first, it looks way too deep. So I'm gonna take this height down. Let's divide it by 2. Actually, my mid-level is supposed to be at 1, just like that. And still looks maybe a little bit too deep. Let's go 0.35. Actually, even less. Let's go 2. Something like that. Looks good to me. Still looks maybe a little bit too big, so let's scale this up. Something like that. Looks good to me. And as you can see, despite the blur we added, I mean, you can see we've got a little bit of like beveling going on. So it's not a super sharp line, but still too sharp for my taste. Change this to smooth normal, change this to Gaussian blur, and bump up the filter radius. Let's try 10. Okay, that looks better, right? You can see the before and after. Right? Does make quite a difference, and it's very useful to have this in Octane, which means I don't really need to go back and forth between Photoshop 20,000 times. Now I am getting some weird shading stuff going on, right? And hopefully this should just be fixed if I go into the quality settings, ray epsilon, and lower it. There we go, perfect. Look at that. All right, nice. And you know, now that I think about it, I think it is still too sharp, because if we have a look at our image, this is very like, it's almost messy, right? It's so smoothed out, and this is very crisp, so we need way more. Let's go to 20, and that's better, but still not quite enough. So unfortunately, we will need to go back to Photoshop, because I don't think you can bump it up even more. Yeah, 20 is the maximum. All right, so let's hop back into Photoshop, and to our blur, let's go with 15 maybe. Let's see how that looks. Save it. And then back into Blender. Let's go save and reload, which should reload all the images in our scene. And it didn't seem to work. Let's see if it... Okay, it did not reload. So let's just delete it, open it back up. Okay, now it worked. Let's have a look. There we go. That's more like it. You know, in real life, I think it's... Well, on the reference image, it's even more blurry than this. But I think for a close-up or something, this looks pretty good, right? It's nice and smooth. Yeah, so I'm happy with this. I'm gonna leave it as is. It maybe looks a little bit too big. Just a touch too big. It just doesn't feel right to me. So let's select this and scale it up. All right, let me move it up a tiny bit. Other way. Something like this. I think that's pretty nice. I think we can actually make it a little bit deeper now. Let's see. And now we're getting some weird shading in the middle, which is unfortunate. Let's try 35 maybe. There we go. All right, nice. I'm happy with that. I'm gonna leave it as is. And now let's do the cap. So these ridges here feel just a little bit too big. So I'm gonna go back to edit mode and select, actually I'm gonna start by selecting, let's see. Let's solo it. Let's select this ring here and hide it. And now select, actually we didn't need to do that. Let's just select the interior, hide that. There we go. Now we can select this. And if we go scale from individual origins, we can just, well, scale them from their individual origins, right? So that looks better to me. Very subtle, but yeah. All right, so we need to do two things in displacement here. One is the logo here, and another one is the logo on top, which you can't quite see, but we're gonna do that. Okay, here's a clear view of the top. So I'm gonna do this, and then right here, open up the front. There we go. So let's switch these. Let's start with the logo right here. So what I'm going to do is, again, we're going to need to get more subdivision in this, I believe. Actually, let's see, let's get our reference back in, like this. And so we need it. We need these. Actually, I think we are going to be fine if we just select these to add the logo onto, and not these, only the front ones. Okay, let's unwrap. Actually, before that, let's make sure all my transformations are applied. Unwrap. So let's see. Rotate this like this. And then select the top here. Let's just get everything like so. Unwrap. Let's project from view actually, or we might get a little bit of distortion. Let's just unwrap it normally, but it's rotating. I don't want that. Okay, you know what? I'm just gonna align it like this. Good. And then select this island as well. Control I to invert, unwrap this, and tuck it away in the corner. There we go. Actually, let's move it out completely. Let's select this, center it. Just make sure we have a little bit of a margin here. Let's move it down. Let's select this and scale it down. Set our cursor right here. That's not working. There we go. And scale from the cursor until they do not touch, just like that. All right, so now what I'm going to do is export these UVs to use as a guide to place my logos. So let's go export UV layout. Let's call this cap UVs. There we go. Make it 4096. Let's go 1 on the opacity and export as a PNG. Yes, there we go. Nice. So let's create a new image in Photoshop. Throw in our UVs just like that. And now we can use this to place our stuff. So if we look at these ones here, we want the logo start at about a third of this last one. So I'm just going to make a pretty quick guide somewhere around here and somewhere around here. Nice. Now let's go back to Illustrator if I can find it. There we go. And select this. Make sure we are aligned. Let's just align them like this. And that doesn't seem to work. Let's see, we have the N that repeats. So let's align that. Just like so. Okay, that's good. As for the kerning, I think we're doing good. Let's just copy the space right here. Move it over here and align this. All right, nice. It should be fine. We'll try it like this. So let's copy this and paste it into a Photoshop. Smart objects. There we go. Let's make sure it is centered. And something like this. All right, now let's see for the vertical alignment. So we want it to go from maybe half of this thing, something like that. So around here, right? That looks pretty good. So let's move it up a little bit, something like that. Nice. And also let's add some blur to it before I forget. Nope. Filter Gaussian blur 15. That looks like it might be too much. Let's go to 10. Still too much. Let's go to 7. Okay, and now we need our logo right here. So back to Blender again. Top view. Yep, hide this. Top view. Let's align this back up. Let's make it easier to see like this. Make sure it's just like that, and then rotate it like so. And so what we want is actually unhide everything except for this, or hide rather. Okay, so we want the line to more or less line up with these poles right here. So let's do that. Come back into here and let's just copy these because they are the same thing we need. Let's group them, line them up with this. Okay, looks pretty good, and align like so. Okay, looks good to me. Let's save this and let's see if it works. It should, but let's see. Throw that in here. Into displacement. Boom, mid-level at 1, 40, 96. And yeah, looks pretty good, man. Looks pretty good. And actually, this is aligned between these two, so we need to be aligned. So let's move that. Let's create a new shape from here to here. Make sure it's nice and aligned. Then select this shape by control clicking on the icon here. You make a selection of the shape and then let's select our text and just align. There we go. Whoops. I know. Let's save it. And now it should be centered. Yeah, nice. All right, and once again, this is way too deep. Let's go point, was it 03? Something like that. Smoothing looks pretty good up here. I'm happy with that. Here too, actually. It might be a little bit too deep. Yeah, nice. And actually, now that I think about it, this is a line and not a indent like we have here. So let's fix that. Let's open this up, get rid of the blur real quick. Let's go back to, actually, can we give this a stroke? So take the fill down to 0, double click it and add a stroke. Make sure it's positioned on the center and make it about as thick as this outer stroke here. That looks good. Turn the blur back on. That is not working. Do we need to put it above? Well, actually, I think we need to, let's get rid of this. Or clear. Convert it to a smart object again, and then copy the blur. And it should work. And it's not working. Yeah, there we go. Nice. Perfect. All right. I think we're good. Let me just check if there's anything else to change. The depth looks pretty good to me. It's maybe a little bit too blurry, although I'm not sure. Here looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. Maybe a touch too deep. So let's lower the opacity of this one to maybe 70%, like that. Let's save it. All right, perfect. Yeah, that was great. That looks great. And you know what? I think we're done. Let's have a look. Yeah, nice. It's pretty nice, right? Pretty close. I mean, obviously the lighting is quite different, but I think we've pretty much got everything. Maybe this one needs to be a little bit deeper. Actually, that looks fine, I think. Yeah, alright, nice. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with this. I'm just gonna maybe change the HDRI to a different one to see how it looks under different lighting conditions. Let's also add in a color correction and take out the saturation so it doesn't mess with our colors here. Pretty nice, pretty nice. I like it. I like it a lot. Now, it is kind of strange how if you look at it from here, it seems like it's very dark up until here, but if I move down, then the light comes through and it looks different. So, you know, I think it also, sometimes you have to change your shading a little bit depending on the shot you're doing, right? So I can be making an animation and have a few different shots, and I will have different shaders for each shot just because of the way that the light interacts with our object. If it just doesn't look quite right, I will just change up the shader to make it look better. So no problem with that. Yeah, that's a pretty good one. And yeah, looks good to me. Okay, so while I was editing this video, I just realized there's a couple things I forgot to do. So one of which is this logo on the top here also needs to be on the back. So let's do that real quick. Should be pretty simple. So again, I'm going to solo this and select the interior faces, hide them, then go back to front view. And let's see, which faces do we need? Okay, so we need these. All right. Now I'm going to deselect the front ones and unwrap these. And again, whoops, rotate them like so, and we want them to line up perfectly with these ones here. So I'm going to make sure my snapping is set to vertex, and then just snap it right here. And now set the anchor point right here. That's not working. There we go. And now let's select the island we need. This one. And now we can scale from the 2D cursor on the x-axis and the y until it lines up, just like that. And now let's see if that worked. It did not work. What's going on there? Let's see. I think I might just need to reload. Okay, there we go. Perfect. That was quick. And another thing I forgot to do is to model the little hole for the sprayer in here. So let's do that. I'm gonna solo this and go into edit mode and select this and solo it. All right, now let's see. I have a reference image right here, and I think we can use this one. So as you can see, well, it's kind of hard to see, but essentially we've got a little beveled hole on the plastic, and then this kind of flap, and then a tiny hole in the center. So I'm going to be doing all this using displacement and a single mask texture that we can use for the color and the roughness. So let's start doing that. As for the size of the hole, I'm just looking at my bottle right here in real life, and it comes up to just about here, something like that, and to maybe the middle. So let's take these. All right, let's see. Maybe from here to here, something like that. Let's select a little bit more. Make sure we are centered. Yeah, that looks good to me. And then unwrap this. Go to our UVs, and what I'm going to do is add a new material to this, copy the cover, assign it, duplicate it, call it sprayer, I guess. There we go. And now what I can do is get rid of this, and we need to go into Photoshop again. Alright, so I'm going to need a circle, first of all. There we go. And give it a stroke. Let's make it thicker. Something like that. Let's center it and make it bigger. Maybe like so. Okay, so that should be good for the hole right here. And then we need a tiny little hole in the middle. So let's duplicate this circle and give it a fill. And, oops, scale it way down. Maybe something like that. Okay, nice. Now let's convert both of these to smart objects and give them some blur. Let's go with maybe 8 and copy that over. All right, let's save this. Now back in Blender, let's open up that texture we just made. And let's see how our UVs align. So let's see. Okay, I'm just going to select this, hide everything else, and select this. Let's align it to the center. That didn't work. I'm not sure why. Sometimes it won't align to the actual center. I'm not sure what's going on, but should be fine. Let's just eyeball it. Seems like it's slightly rotated as well. Let's fix that. There we go. Oh, I know why. If I select this upper left one here, you can see it's this one, which means we need to rotate it by 90, and then it's on the wrong side, so Control N X to mirror it. And now, there we go, it lines up. So let's fix this up, rotate it a little bit, maybe scale it down, something like that, and let's see what it looks like in rendered view. And it's not working, so I need to reload my scene. And there we go. All right. So what's going on here? Oh, it's going the wrong way. That's weird. Oh, there we go. I just needed to invert my map here. And yeah, this is pretty much what we wanted. So let's adjust it a little bit. Actually, let me change up the lighting so we can see it better. There we go. Okay, you know what? That looks pretty good to me. Pretty good. Let's maybe give it a little more blurring. We're actually at the max already. Yeah, I think this looks fine. So now what we need is to go back to Photoshop, and we're going to need, let's get rid of the blur. We're going to need a circle that goes from here all the way in. So let's come in here and, whoops, copy the circle, paste it back, and let's align it. Something like that. There we go. Now we can hide the other two and just save this as another map. Okay, now let's bring that in. And if we plug it into the color, you can see what it does. There we go. So we want that to be inverted. Let's look for a gradient map and then go to flip color ramp, just like that. And if we go back to our reference image, you can see it's this kind of grayish color. So let's bring this down. Something like that. even darker actually. And we also want it to be rougher, right? This seems to be some kind of a rubber or silicone, I'm not sure. So it's very rough. Right now the roughness is the same as the rest of our material, which is 0 roughness. So let's plug that into roughness. Again, gradient map, flip it. There we go. We can maybe bring it down a little bit to like 0.6, something like that. And yeah, that looks really good. Now, if you really wanted this to be more realistic, since it seems to be a thin piece of rubber, from what I can tell, it would have a subsurface scattering, but you know, we're not going to worry about that. And let's try to make it look a little bit better, actually. Maybe a touch lighter. And I think we also want this to be recessed a little bit. So let's hop back into Photoshop. And what we want to do here is use a circle and just give it some slight opacity, maybe something like that. Let's go 20% and see how that looks. Let's also give it some blur because the edges here are quite sharp. There we go, that should be good. Let's try that. And that didn't work because I had to restart Octane, but now you can see it's a little bit more recessed. And I think we can actually push this a little bit further. So back into Photoshop. Let's give this, let's jump in here, actually go back to 100%. And now I can give this maybe 50%. Let's save that. And yeah, there we go. That's what I was looking for. All right, so I think it looks better now. I think we're doing pretty good. Maybe change the color a little bit. Actually, let's get everything else back in. Yeah, something a little bit darker looks better, so it doesn't stand out as much, right? Something like this looks good to me. And yeah, if we want to do a close-up shot, that's going to be just fine. We can maybe push the displacement a little bit further. Let's go 5. Yeah, that's nice. That's nice. All right, sick. So now I think we've got everything for sure. Let's maybe give this a little lip. Just like so. Alright, so that was it for the shaders. I hope you guys enjoyed. Once again, any questions or anything, leave a comment and I will do my best to answer it. So yeah, next time we are going to be ending the series in the third part with making a little scene for our perfume here. Gonna be making maybe 2 or 3 shots just to show you what my workflow looks like to create product renders that look cool and interesting. So yeah, I'm very hyped for that. So yeah, I can't wait. See you guys next time. Bye.